We'll know on Tuesday. And by the way, for everyone who cares, I'm going to be doing a casual run of Phantasy Star 4. Probably in between the regular Tuesday stream and the end of maintenance. So possibly starting at midnight when maintenance starts, and then just doing that until maintenance ends. Got VVBSB2. Is it useful? I believe so, yeah. It's a party buff. And the second command is a Stitch in Time. I like it. Oh, it's confirmed? Alright. There we go. Good. How did my 24-hour stream go? Well, it didn't go for 24 hours, but that's fine. That was not planned to actually go for 24. Pretty good. The plan worked out really well. It was to play not long games, so I was constantly like engaged in what I was playing. It was 21 or 22 hours. And I played a bunch and I uploaded them all to YouTube. You missed the Mega Man 2 run. Yeah, I would consider him tri-elemental with his BSB2. I liked both the Zelda runs. Did I blow any stamina between runs? I didn't have to. Shimmer's Finest was still active during that time, so I had a macro running in the background that was burning stamina for me while I was playing Nintendo games. Okay, so on to the event preview. We're doing Tactics Advance. This is going to be a Thursday's event. And after this, I'll do the Final Fantasy III Distant Preview, which is the next event that I haven't covered in Japan. But we do get a new character in this event. It's Marsh. It's pretty decent. Combat 5, Night 5, White Magic 4, and Ninja 4. Ninja 4. Paladin. Dagger, sword, katana. Okay. Well, I guess they're giving katana use to all the tactics characters because they could all potentially be samurai, I suppose. Shield. So it's just sword and katana? Helm, light armor, heavy armor, robe bracer. Stats look fine. 205 attack is actually kind of low. Not that low, but low enough. Start battle with Sentinel. That's actually a decent RM. Record dive is just sword damage. That's fine. I think on a character like him, I want stats anyway. He's a knight. So he can be both holy and earth. Though primarily holy. So you don't want any element specific stuff, so getting sword damage is good. Knight damage would have been fine though, because he's someone you don't want to use soul breaks on. You do want to use a soul break, but then you want to stick strictly to using abilities. So knight damage would have been fine. I actually would have preferred that. But only having one ability school, or one damage up 3% and the rest being stats is fine. Oh, we do have two new characters. Mont Blanc too. Dancer 5. So he's a black mage. With a good magic. That's what counts, right? Large magic up when equipping robes. Black Magic 9, that's good. BLK 9, sorry. There's a difference. There's a difference. Minor Silencers, this is pretty cool. But Black Magic 9 is the key, and that's good. So, Legend Dives. Marsh gets just pure physical damage 9%. That is the best. The best. And double blind resist. So that's an excellent Legend Dive as far as Legend Spheres. 9% BLK, that's the best, and double sleep resist, which is also good. Gafgarian, dark damage 9%, good, and double blind resist, good. Legend Materia, Marsh, Mont Blanc, and Gafgarian. Marsh gets, that's Malik. What am I doing? Increases holy damage up by 10%. Especially for someone who does both holy damage and earth damage. LM2, 35% chance to dual cast night abilities. That is excellent. Like I said, Marsh wants to do nothing else other than use night abilities if he can. And we're going to find out why. So that is probably the best LM2 that he could possibly get. Mont Blanc grants haste and instant cast 3 at the beginning of the battle. Love every time this shows up. So that's pretty cool. And BLK attacks deal 10% more damage. That's actually a really good Legend Dive. And lastly, we have Gafgarian. 25% chance of Smart Ether 1 to the user after using a Dark Attack. That's absolutely atrocious. There's no Dark Attack that I would want to use that I would want to pair up with Smart Ether. I mean, it's an LM2 that says, oh, hey, if you want to use Sanguine Cross or something, congratulations. You don't have to hone it. You can reduce its hone level by 1. Is there anything worse than this? I don't think there's anything worse than this. This is maybe the worst LM2 in the entire game. Yeah, so never even dream of diving Gafgarian, please. And it's a chance. It's a 25% chance. So you can expect over the course of one fight to get one ability usage back. I think it is worse than the build-ups. Yeah. Because those at least increase your damage output. This arguably does nothing. 0. It just does nothing. It's really the worst. It's the worst. Okay. Blender, I honestly, man. I don't know what you want. I don't know what you want. Oh, I think he just wants to play. I'm sorry. This is my event preview, and Blunder's being the most needy I've seen him in months. You just want to play? Why now? Did someone give you catnip? Okay, banners. Same banner format that we've been having for a few events now. I'm pretty sure someone gave him catnip. Because not only is he, going crazy, But he also brought over his little toy rat thing. He's like a dog. He likes to bring you things so you can play fetch. This is adorable. Man, Blender, you're out of view. Okay. Alright, I'm done. I love playing with Blender. Yep, it is. It is going on the event preview and everyone can deal with it. Okay, Agrius, Durandal is a holy sword. It is. Faithful Knight Sword, 10 single target, holy non-elemental, enemy attack and magic minus 50%, and holy and small self knight abilities damage up. And that is a 15-second buff that increases all her knight abilities damage by 15%. It's not bad. It definitely falls behind just about every USB as far as damage output's concerned. It really relies on the effectiveness of the attack and magic debuff in order for this to be a useful thing. Not useful, like competitive with other things that knights get. That attack and magic debuff is actually awesome where it is useful. Unfortunately, as we know so by now, it is a lot less useful than it used to be. So I would personally place this behind a lot of things. Not bad though. It does give her Unholy and it does give her 15% increased damage, but I mean, think of what the other things that people get, even the throwaway things, right? You know, Pain's USB, for instance, that we just had in the Final Fantasy X event. It's considered one of the bog standard USBs. You get a 30% attack buff in some capacity. You get Quick Cast 1, and then you get Quick Cast 1, you know, as you're using abilities. That's better than a 15% damage buff. And Agrius doesn't even have a good ability to use this with. Because she would need to use both Divine Cross and Guardbringer, and that's hard to pull off without an Entrust. And it's tough to, you know, justify giving an Entrust to a character that doesn't do all that much damage. So Agrius doesn't even have an ability to really combo with this for now, because St. Cross is just a 2-hit ability. I mean, that's really, really running into problems compared to what other people can put out. We do get a 5-hit knight ability that she can use in the next Tactics event, though. But we do get a better character for dealing holy damage in the Tactics event called Orlandu. So, yep, here you go. It's good, but definitely kind of on the lower end of damaging USBs. But next up is definitely something very different. Instead of it being damage focused, this is utility focused, which is interesting. Marsh's Burglar Sword, which I thought was a holy sword, but apparently it's not. Divine Combo, 10 single target, holy non-elemental. And even though this is holy non-elemental, you'll find out that this is still quite good against earth vulnerable things. And holy, still quite good against earth vulnerable things. And self-X mode speed combo. What speed combo is plus 30% attack. And whenever he uses a knight ability, this is what defines him. It grants all front row party members physical high quick cast. So if you are in the front row after Marsh uses a knight ability, the next physical ability, the next turn if you use a physical ability, or just any physical attack, so it can be a soul break as well, the cast speed will be reduced by 66%. It's disgusting. Granting, it's not just quick cast to the party, it's high quick cast. So it gives your entire team, including himself, because he's a front row character, Thunder God mode. As long as he's using night abilities, they get Thunder God mode every single turn. It's just, it's insane. So this is why it's so effective. Even it's so effective that it's even viable versus an Earth Vulnerable, because you're not really using it for the damage output. You're using it for the high quick cast. So the fact that it does holy damage and grants him unholy at the same time means that he just he chews up anything that's wholly vulnerable. And then you kind of rely on the rest of your party for stuff for doing damage against Earth Vulnerable. I know a certain character that would be very happy to have Marsh on his team in the future, named Dorgon. That I would really like to see a Dorgon Marsh combo versus an Earth Vulnerable boss. After he uses a night ability, he will grant everyone high quick cast, physical high quick cast. So yeah, that is busted. It's one of the most busted USBs in the game. Next up, we have Ramza's USB. This one is I'm sorry. He calmed down like a lot after I threw the rack. No, I thought he was sad, but he's not sad. He's still standing by me. Okay, Ramza's USB is something we know very well. It is a tri-buff, an Instacast 1. This is a very good USB, and it continues being a very USB, a very good USB. It's a very USB into the future, because or I'm gonna just name a scenario. I hear the 4-star Magicites are heavy in status effects, so that may make at least from my perspective, I like using a buffer as my healer. That would make it so I would prefer to use a buffer in another spot other than healer, so I could use a status blink like Larsa as a healer instead. So this is I'm creating a theoretical team comp here. So we got a status blinker in Larsa as your healer, and then Onion Knight with either of his USBs as a primary buffer, the primary being the Heiska. And then, you want to entrust battery or another buffer in another position, and Ramza can really fulfill that role very well. If you're not going to use a dedicated super entruster like Shulk, Ramza is also a good entruster with his LMR, and makes a good secondary buffer with attack, magic, and defense, and Instacast 1, because it's a dual. It's a hybrid tri-buff, and the Instacast 1 is always going to be useful. I don't know. I think it's a good combination. So if you've got that available to you, I think that's pretty strong. So Ramza's USB it's always been strong, and it will continue to be strong into the future. That's the deal with him. So that's 2 big hits on the top of the banner, which is a good start. That's what you want to expect out of the start of a good banner. It's rare that you're going to get every single one of the 6 stars is really good. BSB section, we have Ramza's BSB for Cheer. This is BSB 2, by the way, so it's new. Grants him Unholy, And party attack 50% in haste. This is very familiar. It's a shout, but with a burst mode and unholy on it. And the burst mode itself gives him commands, which are pretty interesting. His first command is not really all that useful. There's not a whole lot of situations where you can use this. Versus a neutral boss that, for some reason, you don't want to gain Soul Break anymore on Ramza. The primary reason being full throttle, because you don't gain Soul Break there. And the other being a wholly vulnerable boss. You're not going to find a whole lot of use for this command, I don't think. That's just a prediction, but it's there if you need it. And it actually does have a pretty decent multiplier, and he does have Unholy on the entry. So he can't do a lot of damage after casting Shout. It is a nice thing for him to have available. Because he usually can't deal damage other than, what, Affliction Break? Yeah, I would say it's a Shadow Dragon sub 30 command. Bland Logo, yes, it is the name of the track. Bland Logo title back. Just to play on the excellent, well, it was different localizations. This is from the Japanese soundtrack. So they super Englished it up. It's supposed to be brand logo. You know, how they have issues with their phonetics in the L and the R's. Okay, so that's the first command, not all that useful. Second command, charge self, soul break gauge amount, a very large amount. Okay, that's some word soup. Anyway, it's Wrath. It's Wrath, but with an important distinction, considering the fact that he gives himself plus 50% attack on the entry of the burst. It doesn't give him the plus 3% increased attack that Wrath does. So it doesn't overwrite Shout. So that's nice. So what this does is it frees up his ability slots. You don't ever have to cast or carry Wrath on him because he always has it in his command 2. So what does this open up him to being able to do? Some pretty important stuff as it happens. Affliction Break. Affliction Break, especially for 4-star Magicite. That's really nice. And Entrust. I am for you to envy. Thank you very much for the follow. Draw Fire? Possibly? Probably not. I'm assuming that you're going to be carrying Affliction Break and possibly Banishing Strike. Probably not. I don't think there's any Banishing Strike that needs to happen on the 4-star Magicites. But yeah, it's pretty much Affliction Break and Wrath. Or no, Entrust. So that command 2 opens that up for him and makes him pretty unique in that regard. Because as I've noticed doing 3-star Magicites, you know, you've got Wrath and Entrust, and sometimes, especially in Onion Knight's case, he's like, I wish I could use something else right now. And Ramza brings that to the party with his BSB2. I really like it, so that's a good start to the BSB section. Marsh's BSB Knight combo. 8 single target, Holy Non-Elemental, party attack and mind 30%. Interesting. It's a party buff. And I was saying, I don't even remember what for. Oh yeah, because I'm looking for stuff, you know, to combo with Onion Knight. So I suppose you could bring him to a wholly vulnerable fight and combo him with Onion Knight. What are his commands? Are they worth anything? Self-Sentinel and Self-Knight ++3. That's 15% increased damage. So he turns into a Guardbringer, but without Unholy. With just his BSB, because if you have his USB, that's all you're using. Wasting a turn to cast his BSB for that attack and mind party buff is just not worth it. He cannot do anything more powerful than his speed combo. So I'm trying to think about what value does this BSB have by itself if you're unable to pull his USB. And that would be, yeah, in a wholly vulnerable fight to pair up with Undead Knight. And it would be fine. I mean, the party buff does something. Commands can proc the X mode. Yeah, but what I'm saying, they are, yes. To answer your question, yes. I just don't think if I have his USB that I'm doing anything but using the USB or using Knight abilities. And remember, Marsh does get a 35% chance to dual cast Knight abilities in his Legend Dive. And he's a very, very Legend Diveable character. Because I mean, that works perfectly because he wants to be using Knight abilities. So it's not a bad BSB. It's a consolation prize if you're unable to get his USB. Agrius's BSB definitely showing its age now. The 4-hit entry is kind of rough, but it does imperil, so it's still adding value. It can do something. It's not dead. It's not dead, but it's just aged. As far as damage is concerned, the Imperil does something, and then she has a Sentinel command that allows her to use Guardbringer well. And yeah, that enables the use of Guardbringer with the use of her USB. Remember, I said that she's not really a great Guardbringer user with her USB because she has no way to gain defense without using Divine Cross. But as with most Imperil users, with her BSB, you generally want to be stacking the Imperil, so using a Charge of Soul Break on the USB is probably reducing your damage output, because you're probably not using Agrius on your team as a primary source of damage. She's buffing other people, so you want the Imperil. If there's a bright spot in the Agrius BSB, it's the fact that it's a really, really good versus the Final Fantasy Tactics Torment. Yeah, it's just a unholy OSB combo. Yeah. But yeah, it's really good versus the Tactics Torment. So if you're having difficulty or haven't been able to do the D200 or D300 Sid missions, this is a good thing to have. Next up, Melee Duels BSB. 7 single target random Earth Holy Physical. Enemy attack and defense minus 50% burst mode. It just has break commands. Oh. Stacking. She's got a lot of power breakdown going for her. Kind of the same situation as Agrius's USB. It relies on... not really. Because Melee Duel's a support. She's meant to be debuffing as a debuffing support. Not good in Magicite, but really good at reducing the attack statistic of something elsewhere. So would have been useful in today's multiplayer, for instance. Kind of like, a lion. It's not like today's multiplayer, the Final Fantasy X, Braska's Final Aeon. It's not the toughest content. So it's not really... It's weird. Like, this is a really good thing, but versus something that's not tough to begin with. So has its value reduced because of that. But if there were to be very difficult content that required attack breaking, then this would be awesome for it. It just doesn't really exist. So the role for this is not currently in the game, unfortunately. Okay, so that's the BSB section. Ram's BSB 2 is obviously awesome. Marsh's is fine as a consolation to his USB, but unfortunately doesn't... Yeah, not like many BSBs do work with USBs anymore, but And Ogrius's BSB isn't bad because it's really good versus the Torment, and that's difficult content. Melee Duels is... I would say Marsh's is the most undesirable in the BSB section because it has limited usage, or at least Melee Duels is good in non-Magicite situations, and there are still, fights where you'd want to use stuff like that during. Coming down here to the Legend Materia section, we have start battle with full ATB and instant cast 1 for Ramza. And this is why I went into Ramza being a really good pairing with Onion Knight. Yes, Ramza's BSB2 doesn't really pair with Onion Knight that well. Right now, because of Onion Knight's BSB is also a Heiska, so that's an overlap. But later on, Onion Knight also has a Heiska and attack 50% buff that's better than Ramza's Shout. So, because it also provides 50% crit rate to the party. So, it's really Ramza's USB that pairs well in the future with Onion Knight if you're going down that route. And what's nice about Ramza's LMR is that it works with any kind of Ramza that you want to use. Starting battle with full ATB instant cast 1 is awesome. Like, imagine starting the battle and immediately casting his USB. So everybody starts the battle with a charge of instacast. That's amazing in about any situation that I can think of. And if you're using his BSB2, everyone immediately starts the battle with haste, which saves you so much time. So this is actually just an awesome LMR for Ramza. And honestly, besides Marsh's USB, I personally think that this is the true star of the banner. Next up, we have Ogrius's Jade Armlet. Low chance to dual cast Knight abilities. That's really good for her. That kind of redeems her low damage output. Sorry. From her USB. So if you are going to pull on this banner and you do get her USB and LMR, she can be a very potent holy damage dealer. And she does have a good dive for dealing holy damage as well, because she has a percentage chance to inflict holy imperil every time she uses a knight ability. So that's, it's nice. She's not a bad knight at all. She kind of requires a lot of different pieces to be a decent knight. And you would hope for more, but it doesn't make her a bad investment. And next up we have Marsh's LMR, which I actually like. Medium knight damage up when equipping swords. The medium is 25%. That's really good. I would prefer dual cast, but yeah, I don't think it's that much of a problem. I suppose dual cast would be better. No, it wouldn't, because he already has dual cast. That's why it's so good. 25%. So think about that. Ogrius, low chance to double cast knight abilities. There's a 25% chance to dual cast knight abilities. So that effectively increases her damage output when using knight abilities by 25%. Marsh, 25% damage increase when using knight abilities. So it's the same exact thing, except more constant and less, variance. So what's the difference between them? The difference between them is Ogrius's reduces the problem of capping out on damage. So if Marsh was using Saint Cross and doing 9,999 with each of the 2 hits before the LMR would do nothing because he can't increase the damage past that cap. While Ogrius's would do something because there's a 25% chance to increase her damage output. So that's why it would be preferred to have a dual cast, but in Marsh's situation, you don't care because he already has a 35% chance to dual cast in his LMR. Or sorry, LM2, his Legend Dive. So this is a good thing for Marsh. He actually does a lot of damage with Knight abilities, just using his USB. And that's nice because all of that stuff affects his Earth damage output as well. So he's going to do a lot of damage whether he's dealing Holy or Earth. But dealing Holy damage, he's pretty awesome. Okay, so the LMR section is full of all good things. The only one that wouldn't be considered that good is Agrius, and that's only because Agrius is not one of the better knights of the game. Otherwise, it's a very good LMR. Super Soul Break section, we have Marsh's Defender, Party Medic at 40%, Defense 100% Nusuna. This is actually a good super as a consolation prize. I would still prefer like Elemental Gear because it's useful in more, a multitude of situations rather than this is kind of like a Sid mission thing. That's it. But Ram's Super Soul Break is a good super if you don't have it yet. I know there's a lot going around. I personally don't have it. But it is one of the only forms of high critical. Which is a 50% increased damage output. 50% increased damage when critically striking. And Party Stone Skin, whatever. It's rare. The high critical buff is rare. That's the only reason that this is good. Pair it with your... This is something you can pair with, like, Onion Knight's USB. His Ninja Mode USB increases everyone's crit rate by 50%. If you want to use Ramza with his USB and wrath himself up to chanting as well. If you don't want to entrust anyone. Which is, fine. You don't have to. Overall... Marsh and Ramza USBs are awesome. Ramza's BSB is awesome. I think there's fall off here. I'm not really... Even if I didn't have Agrius' BSB, I wouldn't be all that thrilled to pick up any of these 3 items. All of the LMRs are good, and I do think Agrius' USB is okay at dealing damage, so I wouldn't mind picking this up, but I'd have to pick them both up together, obviously. And the Super Soul Breaks are good. This is a good banner. It just... It's kind of like that Final Fantasy III event that we looked at recently with the Refia and the Ingus, Refia USB and Ingus CSB. It's got heavy competition. And the heavy competition is something that happens in a couple months. There's another Tactics event coming. And I'm going to look at that right now. So, in the event rotation, you usually don't see the same realm coming back so quickly, but we do have a Tactics event coming back pretty damn quick. I've got it ETA'd for January 25th, so really 2 months from now. And this is a 4 6-star format banner. So that's one piece of assistance we can get from it. But I think the major difference between this banner and that one, we see the big stuff. Marsh's USB, Ramza's BSB2, and Ramza's LMR. All 3 of the best relics. Not all 3. 3 of 4 of the best relics from the other event. We do not see Ramza's USB. Are also on this banner, so that's a huge overlap. But what we do is we trade away Agrius, and we add in Orlando instead. And everything that I said was kind of iffy and mediocre about Agrius's damage output, is completely remedied by Orlando. Orlando's USB is busted. Yes, March's USB is busted as utility, and Orlando's USB is busted as damage output, and it is also for both for 3 elements actually. So the entry is something we haven't seen before: 12 single target critical holy dark physical damage, self-critical 100% in X mode Sword Saint. So when you cast this, it doesn't matter. Every strike on those 12 hits is going to be a critical hit. That's it. That's a trait that it has available to it. It grants self-critical 100% and X mode Sword Saint. What Sword Saint is very simple. Attack plus 50%. He just skips over everybody else in the game. Their X modes give them 30% of their primary statistic. He just gives himself 50. And Night and Darkness ability double. Orlando gets buffed to Darkness 5 in this event. So Orlando, because of this Night Darkness ability buff double, becomes a strong user of 3 different elements, which would be Holy, Earth, and Dark, because of his ability double on these 2 ability schools. Yeah, it's just gross. It's just disgusting. And he's ability doubling, and every attack that he's dealing is a critical hit. So consider the abilities that he's going to have available to him. Guardbringer, Earthbringer, Reaping Scythe. So at the lowest is Reaping Scythe with a 4.0 multiplier over 8 hits. 8.0 multiplier, actually, over 8 hits. And Guardbringer and Earthbringer are worse, where they do a 4.0 over 5 hits, so it'll be 8.0 over 10 hits, with a 100% chance to critically hit. So it's busted. And that's really the difference, and that's why if anyone's noticed on my stream, I removed my next draw target of the Final Fantasy Tactics event. I have moved it, because this event is just... There's too many banners coming up for me to split my resources between 2 banners. There's too much chance that I draw on this banner and I pull, Marsh USB or, Marsh things or Ramza things, which reduce the effectiveness of this banner. Where alls I really want on this banner that doesn't show up on that banner is Ramza's USB. That's it. So that's just, it's not enough of a reason for me to go here. Even though this is a good banner, this is an even better banner. Because I feel the Burst Soul Break section is very similar. I only really like Ramza's BSB2 here in the burst section, where here we have Alma, who has a good healer burst, Ramza's burst, yeah, and that's it. So a very, very similar BSB section. The LMR section is better, where we get Marsh and Ramza's, the 2 good ones, off of the previous banner, and Orlando's, which is a 25% chance to dual cast Night or Darkness abilities, as though he wasn't disgusting enough. He has the ability to 15 hit Guardbringer, Earthbringer. So the LMR section is excellent. I would say even better than the LMR section on this area, because for the same reasons the USB section is better, Agrius isn't there and we get Orlando instead. And the Super Soul Break section is reduced. So think of it this way. We lose 1 Super Soul Break and gain a good LMR. So I just believe that this banner is better for all reasons except for Ramza's USB. It's regrettable that I lose my chance at getting Ramza's USB, but this banner is just too much better. And it's really only 2 months away, so it's quite soon into the future. Oh yeah, I forgot that. For those of you who do not have it yet, Orlando's OSB takes up the 4th slot. In the 6-star section, so he does lightning damage. If need be. And I need him to do lightning damage because my lightning damage is poor. The only Magicite I have not sub-30'd is Bismarck. And Orlando's OSB would allow me to sub-30 it. And it's not even a bad dupe, because it's a 6-star Holy Sword. For the people that already do have it. So, yeah, there's a direct comparison for a banner that's only 2 months away. And you'll be able to pull on that banner. Yeah, I suppose it wouldn't really matter. So I just, that's where my Mithril is going to go instead of this one. But, Ramza's USB is very tempting. It's very, very tempting. It's that powerful, and it will be powerful for a very long time. So, Banner 2, we have Gafgarian, Ovelia, and Rafa. Right out of the gate, we know that this banner is not going to be as good because we know Gafgarian's Legend Dive sucks, which kind of removes him in the running for being one of the better characters of his class. I looked at the Dark tier list and saw that Physical Dark actually has a really awesome top end. Unfortunately, Gafgarian does not enter that top tier because his Legend Dive is just so unbelievably bad, and a lot of other characters have one that is a hell of a lot better. But his USB is not one of the reasons that he is bad. His USB is actually good. 10 single target random, dark non-elemental, and dark self-attack and defense plus 30%, and everlasting darkness. This is a chase. Nope, wrong banner. And it's a good chase. When using darkness abilities, additionally follow up with a 2 single target dark non-elemental physical attack that drains HP. This makes him one of the better users of Crimson Cross. He can Crimson Cross, then his chase drains, so it nullifies the HP drain that he gets on himself after using Crimson Cross. So that's great. Just a great thing to pair up a very, very powerful 5-star ability. It stinks. Gafgarian has a good LMR, but a bad Legend Dive. Otherwise, he'd be a pretty damn good character. So I really like this USB. Ovelia's Zeus Mace, we've seen this before, USB. 0 cast time Medica, party resistance plus 100%, and Guts. I do like this USB. Guts is Last Stand. I usually real-time edit it, but I didn't this time. I like it. I like her USB. I just don't like her BSB, and I think you need to have a frigging amazing USB if you want to be one of the top tier healers. With only using their USB, and her BSB isn't that. So I don't really look at Ovelia as being one of the better healers. I think the only healer that has subpar BSB or par BSB or lower that really is really effective and good probably be Rosa. Is that it? Who really relies on their USB and not their BSB at all. Because Realm's BSB is great. Aphmau's BSB is great. And those are characters that have great USBs. Yeah, I can't think of any. So anyway, I like Rafa's USB. I just don't like Ovelia as a character. Rafa's USB. Scorpio Miracle. Party Haste, cool. Magic plus 30%, cool. Magic Quick Cast, 3, cool. So we got Ley Lines and End Lightning. So she becomes a... this is kind of... It's good. It's just one of those USBs that get marginalized by Onion Knight in the future. It's kind of like one of those healers that gets like minor fire resistance or minor elemental resistance on their BSB. They become a healer for an element. Where Rafa, with this USB, becomes a buffing mage, but for a single element, which is unfortunate. Because you have someone like, you know, well, I guess we'll use Onion Knight. It's the best comparison. Onion Knight's USB gives him magic plus 30%. Not himself. Gives a tri-buff, magic, mind, and resistance plus 30% to party, haste to party. So already we're good. Magic quick cast 3 to party. And instead of giving himself Enlightening, he gets increased BLK damage, and has also has a... Oh yeah, in his Legend Dive, he has a 35% chance to dual cast black magic abilities. So he's really just flat better than Rafa at everything that she does, unfortunately. Edward. Edward doesn't haste, does he? Yeah, no, he does. It's Mog that doesn't haste. So I was going to say someone like Papalymo. No, it doesn't count. So anyway, it's a good USB. Raph is very good against lightning vulnerable bosses. The problem is it's too focused. Buffing is such a weird category because buffers need to be good against multiple elements. All elements, in order for them to be in the highest tier of the buffers. And Raph is really only good against one. So these are good USBs, they just come with flaws. I think Gafgarian's by itself is the only one that's really flawless. It's just Gafgarian himself is flawed. Yeah, but none of these are really top tier characters. Next we have Mont Blanc and BSB section. It stinks. Like, Mont Blanc got a Legend Dive, and he got Instacast 3 and Haste to start the battle in his Legend Dive. And that's a really powerful LM2 for a character that does not start the game with a USB. That stinks. He could have been a good character, but all he gets is his BSB, which admittedly is not bad. 10 single target, fire, ice, lightning, magic, party, magic, and defense plus 30%. This is a really good start. That's tri-elemental party buff. So he is a buffer that is potent in 3 different elements instead of 1. And the commands are 4 single target, fire, ice, lightning. Okay. Second command is 2 single target, fire, ice, lightning, and self magic. And so he gets a self buff, tri-elemental, and then, well, the burst command doesn't really matter because we're getting the ability buff. So who cares about that? But he does get a tri-buff, or a tri-elemental self buff, which is better than Vivi's version of this. Burst Soul Break, which is only a single elemental self buff on a second command. Vivi has a very similar burst to this. This is just it's a really good burst, and Mont Blanc does have a good Legend Dive. It's just the burst isn't strong enough, I don't think, to make it worth diving Mont Blanc. So, you know? Is one of those characters. This would be a good BSB if you could use his Legend Dive, but you really I wouldn't suggest using his Legend Dive, so without his Legend Dive, not that great. So I really would have liked a USB for him to pair up with that Legend Dive. So not really that thrilled to pull this. Gafgarian's Chaos Bringer sucks. I'm not even going to go into it. It's an old burst. It's just awful. Rafa's BSB does not suck. What's up, Skillet? She's over on my dresser staring at me. Rafa's BSB is well known to the populace. It does not suck. It is very good. Magic and resistance plus 30% to entire party. And it has an interesting first command that heals the lowest health party member for 25% of their maximum HP. Or is mind-based? I think it might be mind-based. Regardless, it's good. And it has a self-buff command too. So she becomes just a good lightning mage with this BSB. Having this BSB would easily get me a sub 30. I'm actually sorta kicking myself for getting Zell's BSB in the selection instead of Rafa's BSB, but not really. It's okay. I did need the Fire Fist, and I still will need the Fire Fist in the future. Massadio's BSB is bad. Yep, that's that. Legends, Materia section. Gafgarian does have a good LMR. It's a trance mode LMR, so it's just basic. It doesn't do anything cool or special. It just refills his health when he gets to low HP and gives him quick cast for 25 seconds. So everything he does is quick cast, or half cast time. It's just a good LMR. I really like that LMR. Really potent with his USB. So Gafgarian can be a very good dark character with his USB and LMR. Very, very good. It's just the fact that he's A tier instead of S tier, it just goes to show how good some of the S tier is. And it gets really, really good. Mont Blanc has medium chance to self quick cast 1 when using black magic abilities. That's good. That's good. Good for him. Probably would have preferred dual cast, but quick cast 1's fine. Ovelia's small chance to dual cast white magic. That's good. So the LMR section on this banner is actually not bad. Super Soul Break. Party Magic and Mind 30% and Haste. That's a pretty good Super Soul Break. Useful at times. Pair that up with his BSB and you've got a really strong buffer for 3 elements. For full throttle or something. I'm not that big on it because it's a Super Soul Break that's only really a complimentary item for not a great character. And Mustadio is a complimentary item. It's not a great Soul Break for a bad character. So I'm going to consider both the Supers losses. So what do we got here that's good? Honestly, it's all 3 USBs are pretty good. Bad BSB section. I think Rafa's the only one that I care about. Yeah. LMR section is actually really good. But these are kind of like those relics that are good only if the characters are good. So, it's just the A to B tier banner that's going on here. There's nothing S, and I feel like it's hard to make a case for pulling on a banner that doesn't have anything that's truly top tier going for it. So I don't think it's tough to condone pulling on it, even though it's not that bad of a banner. It's just kind of chill. It's not bad. It's not great. you know, barring the existence of the Final Fantasy Tactics banner 2 months from now, I would consider this a great banner. All right, so what's everyone think? And there's going to be a small pause between this and the next event preview, because I am famished. I need to eat something.